Hey there, boys, girls, and squirrels. My name is Modstab, and welcome back to the Let's Build series in Minecraft, where we build things. Now, in last episode, we had a couple things that we needed to decide. One thing was how we wanted this to look. I went ahead and actually did the end stone bricks, because if you're walking from this angle, like, oh my goodness, it's so cool. And it has like this nice little feel of having a little bit of pop and texture and things like that. I love it. I love it. I love it. And the other thing we needed to vote on, it was actually up here on the top, and I'm really not sure if I like. I'm not sure how I like it. Let's be honest. Let's see. Now we have these glass panes and these glass windows that we're making and trying to make a pretty like little design, make it look fancy and all that kind of stuff. We might have to come back to this later, as that will kind of build from top to bottom to top, excuse me, from this point on. There's a couple of things on the outside I want to take care of before we get really picky about that. I will say the left one looks better from a distance, the right one doesn't. Ultimately, you're not going to see those until you climb up into that building, because, well, as we drop down further and further, oh, you can see it from this. You can't even see it from this height, and we're still so far above everything. Now, the last mission on the docket here is, oh, by the way, I love these. I love these campfires. I know you guys heard me ramble about them like all day, every day. One thing we need to do here is we need to kind of fill out up till, I think I'm going to go to this corner. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to, because of life and things, I'm going to take these little guys here. I'm going to run them, oh my Lanta. I'm going to run them all the way over to this portion. And then we're going to come out till however long this little end cap over here is. I hate these. I hate these. Grass can be such an annoyance, for lack of a better term. But what I want to do is I want to fill this out. And once I get that squared away, we'll probably inlay regular stone bricks rather than the mossy stone, just to give it a little bit more depth and a little bit more contrast and poppiness and awesomeness. And I frankly don't need to fill it in. We're on peaceful. There's no monsters that are going to spawn. If you're building this on a survival server, that's definitely going to be something you're going to want to take care of, because, well, things and monsters are evil and whatnot. So what we're going to do is I'm going to fill out both of these, and then we're going to pop back into this and work on rebuilding some of those beautiful tables and chairs. So I will see you guys once we finish this stuff. Alrighty, friends and family. So we went ahead and finished filling those out. And I do kind of like having these trees in the middle to kind of separate a little bit here. But what we did is we changed things ever so slightly, and I'll kind of explain over there, putting it upside down staircase, because I wanted to, like over here, for instance, I wanted to have the effect of like walking up to it, but not being able to kind of jump over the gate and whatnot. Like knowing that in Minecraft you can jump on these stairs like just fine. It's not a big deal. But it kind of creates that that almost illusion of it being a pedestal that we're looking at, and not a let me see how it looks going like that. Yes. Oh gosh, yeah, we're doing that. We are doing that. All right. It kind of creates this idea of having a pedestal here, so that it feels a little bit more exclusive. So I'm going to go ahead and fill this out the rest of the way here, which honestly isn't too far because, well, frankly, we haven't done a lot of things. And I'm going to kind of show you essentially what the thought process is and the build process for this is. So essentially what you do is it's 2 deep and then 1 on top. So you just kind of, you just go. And in survival, you might have that filled out just in case we build a basement and things like that. It's a little easier to work with. That way monsters don't spawn, and we all know how that goes. So, yeah, the mission is to live as long as possible in survival, whereas the mission here is to just build pretty things, even if they don't necessarily make sense. So we are going to continue doing that. And you just follow this all the way around. It's just really simple. And that's one of the things I try to do in Minecraft as much as possible. I want to make things look pretty, but I also want them to be the least amount of convoluted as possible, so to speak. So I want them to be a simple build that doesn't require a whole lot of extra materials. So you don't have to rely on a lot of stuff outside of like the staircases. And once you get that taken care of, you throw the staircase here. No surprise there. Anyways, back to the thought process of what I was just talking about is I wanted to be simple. You know, I don't want you to have to hunt for thousands and thousands of years outside of the end stone, just because it is creative. But you can use and substitute that with any stone in the game. Like as far as like mossy cobblestone, you can do regular cobblestone if you want to really give that rustic feel or that dilapidated feel. You can do stone bricks like these guys here. That'll give you that regal feel. But this just happened to fit the inspiration for what building I'm kind of taking the process from in the design and in the color scheme from. So I'm doing it so that I can match what my inspiration was, but you really could use any set of blocks you want. Now here, how it works is you do 1, 2, 3, 4, you give it a space, and then 4 all over again. And so you just kind of repeat that process over and over and over. And then this is where it gets a little awkward. And I say awkward because it's just corners are always a little bit awkward when you're trying to go for as symmetrical of a build as possible. Now, fortunately, it's not that convoluted. So you have the iron bars, the iron fence gates, or whatever you want to call them. And then you just put one block right here, right in that in-between spot, that one gap that you gave. And then with 1.14, you just pop this bad boy on there, and it looks absolutely amazing. And it gives that smoke feel of actually having a fire going. That's one of my favorite things they added texture-wise because of the smoke. And then you got something like this, and it really kind of honestly harkens me back to like, what is the Greek and Roman like empires where they had a lot of those pedestals and whatnot, and make it look really kind of sophisticated, I guess, so to speak. So that's that portion of things. Now what we need to do here is we need to take care of a couple of, well, seats. So we need to figure out our seating arrangement here, and I think we're going to go with something fairly similar to what we had prior. We did a couple of these guys, and I think we did trapdoors, was it? I'm pretty sure it was trapdoors, because it kept it nice and even. But I think what I'm going to do is make them look a little bit more elongated rather than just like the boom, boom, 3 trapdoors. I think I might throw down a couple more. And so what I kind of want to do is even it up here. Excuse me. And then we'll do 4 instead of the 3. And I'm just putting these block as placers. Let's go back to the trap. I love how these guys look in regards to like tables and things like that. So if you pop these guys on there, like look at that. You can't tell me that doesn't look like rustic and it has that feel of glory. Oh, I still got the sniffles though. So what our mission here is to go through and fill out a handful of those guys on each of these sides. And what I want to do before I get too carried away with that, however, is I would like to, oops, yep, grab this guy. And I think the trick here is you just kind of go through and just as randomly as possible, like break things up. You know, you don't want it to look like it was structured or like it has some type of like pattern to it. You just want to kind of break up the monotony of the mossiness. And sometimes it'll look kind of squared and whatnot, but that's just kind of the structure of how it, you know, how things work when you're building it by hand. You can't get it perfect, but you can give a general idea or a general sense of the fact that it's just things get mossy, you know, life happens. All right, so let's fill in a couple of these guys. We might break a couple back here just to give it that feel of randomness or spontaneity. Spontaneity? Is that the right word? I don't know. That might be the right term. I want it to look spontaneous, and I want it to kind of break up the moss just a little bit. And once you kind of get things filled in, like you can tell it doesn't change a whole lot, you know. It just gives you that small amount of separation. And once you get that squared away, in my opinion, it's kind of nice occasionally to go through and just kind of fill in a couple spots where you're like, man, I wish it was just broken up just a smidge more there. And what I'm doing on this side is I'm kind of giving that whole illusion or that idea that, you know, they would want to take care of their gardens a little bit better. So they're going to have those pretty clear all the way around. And then with moss, you know, it's a walk area. Some spots will be a little bit more mossy than others. Some spots not so much. But you can see that it doesn't do a huge amount of options for the aesthetics. But what it does do is it breaks up that monotony. And so once we get this all squared away, you can, you know, and what I would recommend doing, in my opinion, just based off like how my preferences with building and things like that, break up the section where there's going to be a lot more traffic, a lot more. Like, for instance, we know that going into this building, there's going to be a lot more traffic than a lot of the like patio walkways and things like that out there. So kind of break it up. Like, you can see how it kind of gives that illusion of like a little bit, slightly more traffic kind of going on here. And you can break it up and have a couple 3s, a couple 4 next to each other and whatnot. Just make it look really, really random, but nice. And it really helps builds like this where you don't have a whole lot of texture available to you in regards if you want to keep a really consistent design pattern going on, to really give that quite literally that separation that we're talking about here. And you just kind of break it up, and that'll give us a general idea. And if you fly up, you can kind of see that it just gives it that feeling of spontaneity. And then we'll go down here and get a couple of these guys and whatnot, and just make things look really, really pretty. All right, now we get back to the spontaneity, however you want to say it. I'll probably just say both every time just to be that guy. Be like, I don't know, grammar sucks. By grammar sucks, I mean my grammar sucks, because I am the best, as Mario would put it. Alrighty. This is always like the weird monotonous stuff that you tend to find the most joy in when you're playing Minecraft, which is ironic because why would just randomly placing blocks just in the most sporadic of patterns you can think of be something that's enjoyable? But I think the fact of the matter is you just kind of get to shut things off and just relax a little bit. Now, one thing I remembered I did in the last episode was I have this little walkway up because it breaks up the kind of these similarities of having all in stone brick, and it really gives you a little extra depth, especially from ground level. Now, the higher up you are, the more you fly, whatever, it doesn't give you that same type of feel. But ultimately, when a building is made, it's not made to be viewed from the sky. Now, there's a couple exceptions to that rule, but it doesn't apply to something like this where, technically speaking, in the time frame that a castle like this might have been built in its original glory, it probably wouldn't have airplanes, you know, because it's great. Anyways, so we come down here. We have a nice little, I love that pedestal type feel to it. It just makes it look a little bit more official. Now you get up here and you really can't tell much from like this perspective, like where and why there's slightly clean spots. It just makes it look a little bit more organic. But as you're walking down here, like look at the depth you get on that trim. Now, if you're straight on, it's boring. If you're from top down, it's super boring, but that's not why we made it. All right, so the next mission is to fill this space up with a handful of tables. Now, unlike last time, I'm gonna make it slightly less organized. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and take care of that stuff off camera, kind of get some tables and things like that, making it look nice and pretty, and then we will figure out what we wanna do in these outward sections as well. All right, I'll see you guys when we get there. And we have returned. So I just went ahead and put just a handful of those tables up. I didn't want to have it super organized because although the first time I built this before we had the world crash, it was very organized. It was like, this is definitely eatery. There's a bunch of people, a bunch of tables. They're all organized. They're perfect. They're amazing. The more I thought about it, the more I realized like a patio like this would be a place for hanging out, not a place for like just organized and prim and proper. Like it's a castle. It's not a hall for like visitors per se. You know, it's not like a tourist attraction or sightseeing, at least in the time that this would have been built. It was more of a hall or more of a castle for the people that were assigned to it. So it'd be a little bit more of a hangout region. You have some open spaces for hanging out and dancing and having a good old time, maybe playing, I don't know, some medieval game. I don't know, you know, things. But there would be tables out here in case it was beautiful outside and you were like, I want to go eat. Now, while I was doing that, I did think about the idea of what if we just had kind of like a garden? Like, what if we had a garden here? That would be an amazing, amazing thing. And kind of what I want to do is, here we go. So we're going to open this up just a smidge. Now I want to make sure, so it's 8 from there. I want to make sure it's kind of centralized. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it'll be 7. And then what I'm thinking is we'll probably go over just one more. And what I kind of want to do is have like a centralized, for lack of a better term, maybe like a fountain, because that would look absolutely amazing. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of fill this bad boy in, try to get some semblance of a fountain going on in this small region of an area, and then we will be back once I troubleshoot all of that. Alrighty, friends and family. So we have what we call a water fountain. Now I know it's not the most beautiful, the most pretty, and I did debate on bringing this down a little bit, but I really like how having it open on the top here looks. So it's a very, very, very simple fountain. So all we did is we kind of came out 3, did a little L bracket, 3, L bracket, 3, and then L bracket back to 3, and filled it up. And what I did was I put in the middle just to keep it a full block. Although, thinking about it now, might be able to get away with the fence because it does kind of flow around it, as you can see here. Might look kind of cool, kind of nifty, don't know. But all I did was I put stairs in the middle, and they are once again in a 3x3 section, just to kind of give us some depth and texture when it comes to the fountain. Now, what I'm thinking about doing is maybe put some glowstone in the bottom just to kind of give it some extra illumination. But we'll talk about that once the time frame gets there, and then we can put a guy on the top just to kind of make it come to more of a pinnacle. And so rather than trying to walk you through here, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pop over towards the other way and just do it all from scratch so you guys can kind of see how it looks. Now, I think the hardest part about this was getting the water physics to work, because you used to be able to do like a water fountain, a waterfall, where it would be able to kind of, for lack of a better term, not flow. But that's not so much the case here. So we're going to take this out to make sure we have it correct. I'm going to go ahead and just get this started here. So we have 3. And then what we do is we started with a L bracket there just to make it look a little rounded. And now it doesn't matter what little guys you put kind of in these little square sections, because, well, frankly, they're going to be covered. So you do 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you come down, boom, 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 1, 2, 3, and then you go back into that bracket. So technically speaking, there are 4 blocks, or 5 blocks, excuse me, from left to right. But to kind of help organize things and keep it a little neater and nicer for me, I just said 3, L bracket, and 3, because sometimes I confuse myself. And now what I did on the bottom here is I just kind of filled this in. And once again, you don't have to fill in underneath those little pedestals because, well, they're not really going to be seen much, and water is not going to flow to them. But this gives it a nice little bottom. And what I did was I just made a simple 3x3 square with these guys. And then you come up, and now the height is kind of up to you, but I believe, if I remember correctly, I went yay high. And then what I did was I put walls on the sides here, because it kind of gives it that illusion that you have a little bit extra support. And then what I did from there, to keep everything even, I went ahead and squared it off. And now in these sections here, now let me check just to make sure I have the height right. We have 1, 2, 3, and then bottom pedestal. I just want to make sure that it's symmetrical. Now, once again, the height is kind of arbitrary because you can do whatever you want, really. But so I came down here and I have 1, 2, 3, round, and then pedestal. Perfect. And I'll show you what we did here. Although it's hard to see, it does give it a little bit extra kind of variance. That way it's not just a bunch of square blocks all right next to each other. Now, so let's make sure we got 1, 2, 3, and then pedestal, golden. So what I did here was I put upside down staircases. Now the reason I do that is because it kind of gives that illusion of having a lip there. And I shouldn't say illusion. I like to use that word a lot apparently. But it's an actual lip. And then what I did from that stage on is to get things started, I did this, and you'll find out why here in just a hot minute. But what you do is you put this guy here, and then all you do is you fill the top out with stairs. You know, living the dream, the stair dream. We like stairs in this Let's Build, apparently, because stairs are about as close to versatile as you can get. All right, and so we end with something like this. Put a little topper on it. And now this was the most awkward part of getting things to work here. So you want to fill in all the water as much as possible. And the awkward part is knowing that now with the new water mechanics, you kind of have those half slabs. Now, in order to kind of counterbalance that, you have to do something a little unique. And so you just kind of put them out here. I know it looks really weird and it gets really annoying really fast. So essentially what you do is you kind of plop these bad boys on here. Now what you could do to kind of counterbalance this right off the gate, because now you can see how it's kind of all nice and beautiful here. So what you do is you pop one of these guys in each of the corners, and then you go about it this way. And I should have thought about this first, knowing that you can fill those half slabs of stairs, and it's really frustrating to deal with, because I feel like if I'm on the back side, it shouldn't mess with the staircases at all. And I know you don't have to quite do all of them, but frankly this is easier than trying to troubleshoot which ones got the half slab of water and which ones didn't. And then you might run into some where it kind of expands out. But essentially, oh gosh, it ruined it, guys. So essentially what you were trying, Mother flower. Okay, Devin, get a grip on yourself. Get a grip on yourself, son. All right, essentially all you're trying to do is make sure that in the middle, it's all solid. You know, there's no flowing. For whatever reason, I can't get it to stop flowing. There we go. All right, so now it's all beautiful and even. You go back in and you can place your stairs. Now, here's the small caveat. When you place these corners here to kind of give it that rounded effect of a fountain, you actually have to block the water out around it. And I'll show you what that looks like here in just a second. So now that we have this, you could leave it like this if you just want to be like, just not worry about it, be a little bit more simple of a man than me. But I need to have the rounded section. Now, this is what is slightly irritating about it is I just wish that if you placed a new block, stair, or otherwise, the water would just realize that it is not superior to you in any way, shape, or form. It messes with everything. It's frustrating. But it's all good because it's for the beauty of life. By beauty of life, I mean beauty of our glorious fountain. Now, the reason I did it this way instead of, I know I kind of talked about putting blocks down originally and just doing it that way. The reason I kind of wanted to do it this way is kind of so you guys could see exactly what happens when you try to work with certain water mechanics. That way it wasn't just my word. You weren't just taking my word for it. Now, it does kind of mess with it, which is frustrating. It didn't do this on the other one. But I think that's because I filled in all four at the same time. Because you can see over here, it's fine in this corner. But for whatever reason, this corner's messed up. But whatever, it is what it is. I'm not super concerned with it because ultimately what happens is you end with something like this. Now, just like down here, I put these up because this is a way harder to deal with if you don't have them. So you plop that bad boy down, right? And so you see that, and you can kind of notice that there's something a little bit different about this little guy here. So these right here are kind of they're skinnier. They're not full blocks. They're just the walls. Now, the reason you have to start with blocks there is because, as you can see with this guy in the middle, it flows through walls just like stairs. So anything that's considered a half block, things flow through. However, once you get it established, you have those angles already running from the water. You can go ahead and plop these guys in, because then it won't kind of just flow through them. It'll flow by them, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Now, as you can see, it really, really messes with the dynamics of the water and whatnot. So I probably didn't need to be as picky as I was with this fountain, but it is what it is. It's an adventure. You know, I always like trying to build something in a slightly smaller scale. Now, if we wanted to really round this off, in theory, we could put one staircase here and then kind of angle it around, but I think that would just take up too much space for such a small increase in visual appealingness. But you know what? I know. All right, we are back. Notification has been turned off. So, what was I thinking? Oh yeah, I know we haven't done a whole lot. Off camera, I went ahead and trimmed the whole outskirt of this. Now, corners were a little wonky, and certain corners had certain different design textures and things like that. I'm not overly happy really with any of them because they're wonky. They're weird. I wish I could have done this in all of the corners or whatnot, but it is what it is. But it does give a lot of texture there. And we did finish this outside portion. Showed you guys how to do kind of these upside down pedestal looking things. Showed you guys how to do a very, very small water fountain. But it's coming together. Showed you guys how to do some small tables, just kind of random patterns there. What I'm thinking, because I have to work today, and I should have addressed this right in the beginning. Oh no. So anyways, now that all that's taken care of, we didn't accomplish a whole lot, but I do have to work today, and that's something I should have talked about in the beginning of the episode. Is I'm going to start working more towards the night times on weekdays. So I will be trying to record, edit, and upload these all in the mornings before they have to be taken care of. So if it seems a little scatterbrained for the next week, that's probably why. However, I do want to get back in track of uploading something every single day of the week, with one exception. I am going to cut Sundays out of the schedule, which is a little bit of a bummer. However, one thing to keep in mind is I shouldn't say as if you guys know. One thing that really led to that decision was the fact that if I'm going to be working nights, my wife works mornings. And so I 100% will only see her when I go to sleep, like as in go to sleep in the same bed and then wake up in the same bed. And then after that, we'll have a short half an hour-ish period after I wake up from being out so late to talk to her and kind of converse with her. And then we all go our separate ways for the remainder of the day, and she won't see me until 2 or 3 in the morning when I come home. Now, I'm thinking this is going to be a temporary phase because it makes life harder. Let's just put it that way. And so, moral of the story is we're gonna slow down a little bit, taking Sundays out the schedule because I want to spend time with my wife. Okay. It's just how it is. So we're going to go down to 5 instead of 6 episodes a week. We're going to keep all the big major ones. I'm going to try to find a spot for Banished because that's one I do have a lot of fun with. But it is very time consuming. So I don't know how that's going to work in with the new schedule. Now, all that being said, the most rambly outro out of the way. Thank you guys so much for joining me in today's episode. Let me know what you guys think of these fountains. Do you guys have a little better build? Do you guys have a preference to something else? Would you like to see me put upside down stairs in the corners here just to give it kind of a little bit different texture? I don't know. All that is questions that can be answered in the comment section down below. But remember, liking, commenting, and subscribe are great tools for you to get in touch with me. Let me know what you like, didn't like, and what you want to see next. Without further ado, I love you guys, and we will see you next time. Toodles!